Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Dill. Another Sunday afternoon, another AP poll top 25. And we got a lot to discuss. Penn State, no longer a top 25 team. Texas, no longer a top 25 team. And Dill, look, we had our reservations regarding Penn State. I didn't think it was going to get that bad going on the road to a winless UCLA team. And Dill, it was the defense, man. Like that defense looked lost against a UCLA offense that has showed no life to start 2025. And then you got Texas. Put my hand up. I just missed on Texas, man. And it wasn't just Arch Manning. Arch Manning was not playing good football, has not played good football, but I thought the rest of Texas was decent. They go on the road to Florida and get their tails whipped along the lines of scrimmage. I don't think we have an argument to keep Texas in the top 25 because there's no win you can point to and say, yeah, that's a good football team. Now they got two losses, one of which is to an unranked Florida team that was showing no life to start 2025. Got a lot more to get into before we do, and as always, y'all let it fly in the comments section. But by far, the best part about this episode every single Sunday afternoon is hearing from you guys in the comment section. The teams that are ranked too high, the teams that people are sleeping on, let it rip in the comment section. Call your shot. Appreciate you guys too. The amount of support for this episode every Sunday afternoon been amazing. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I want to start at the top here. Ohio State, Miami, and Oregon. We've both been pretty vocal that these three teams have been the best three teams in the sport, really, as 2025 has played out. Do you have a take on the top three? And Dill, I'll tee you up here because I know this is where you're going to go. Would you start to include Texas A&M in this conversation as well?
100%. I think Texas A&M is looking like a real wagon, for lack of better terms. Like I look at the completeness, the way that defense is starting to play, because that's
Yeah.
the only thing that would have held you up a little bit is their defense. They were just giving up explosive plays, not tackling well, doing some things fundamentally poorly, which was always a little surprising, frankly, coming from an Elko coach team. That's all been cleaned up, it feels like. That's a really good Mississippi State offense they just played, and they really just sat on them and buried them for pretty much that entire game. I'm looking at the way some of these guys have picked their level up, especially Torian York, who's kind of like the key to that defense in a lot of ways. With him playing at a really high level now, Cassius Howell still kind of continuing to dominate at a high level. I'm ready to put A&M up in that.
Yeah, let's have that conversation because I'll say this: Ohio State, Miami, Oregon. I'm going to continue with the stance of you can have those teams ranked in any order you want, and I'm not going to push back all that much. I think they're clearly the three best teams in the sport. But I am ready to start having the conversation about Texas A&M Dill for the same exact reason. Like you were starting to list some of those players on this team. I'm going to go a little bit bigger picture and say, to the defense. The defense has been nails the last 2 weeks. More importantly than that, though, the run game is coming alive. They also have the ability to be extremely explosive on offense. What stands out to me and continues to stand out to me about Texas A&M is if you want to drag them into a shootout, like Notre Dame dragged them in a couple of weeks ago when they were on the road, they can go blow for blow with any offense in the country. But Dill, when you want to grind you out game where we're leaning on the run game and we're leaning on defense, Texas A&M can win that kind of way too. And Dill, this is the argument I have to put Texas A&M over Ole Miss as one. I look at Texas A&M's resume and say I think it's better than Ole Miss. You have an on-the-road win against Notre Dame. And I know Ole Miss beat LSU at home. We'll get to LSU. I have question marks about how good LSU is, but then you take care of business against Auburn. You take care of business against Mississippi State, who the week prior took Tennessee to overtime. I think Texas A&M's a better team, and I think they have a better resume than Ole Miss as well. I think they deserve to be in that number 4 spot.
Yeah, and Ole Miss is, I guess, I don't want to say lucky that they caught LSU at the right time, but that is ultimately what it was.
Is there ever going to be a right time for LSU with this offense?
No, I don't mean catch them they just caught the ranking at the right time.
Oh, sure.
We were like very convinced LSU was the second best team in the country or whatever. I think, again, as Florida struggled, as Clemson struggled, we probably now have a better sense. LSU might have, and again, I fell for that for sure. I was big on this LSU team. I thought they were going to figure it out offensively. That doesn't feel like it's going to be the case. So I'm kind of with you. I think A&M eyeball test pass over Ole Miss certainly have more high end difference makers, which is probably the big difference between these
Dill,
two.
I think they're the more complete team than Ole Miss, and I think you're right. I think they have more high end difference makers too. Like point to Ole Miss and find me the name that's going to be a top 50 pick in the NFL draft, because I think Texas A&M has a few. I mean, Cassius Howell is going to be a first round NFL draft pick. I think both the defensive backs are going to go to the NFL. Mario Craver is a
Behind.
top 3 wide receiver in the sport as we sit right now. Their ability to attack teams in different ways, I think it separates them from Ole Miss. And Dill, quite frankly, I'd be willing to have that same conversation for Oklahoma as well. This is obviously assuming you have a healthy John Mateer, but I look at Oklahoma and say that's one of the best defenses in this conference. They have one of, if not the best quarterbacks when he's healthy in this conference. And I would probably make an argument that I'd take Oklahoma over Ole Miss as well in these rankings too.
You know, I wouldn't fight you, but I do think there's like a very next two, if you will, because I'm keeping A&M up there in the top
Yeah,
four. I
sure.
think there's some separation. I probably want to see more from Oklahoma and Ole Miss in terms of like because I still go back to that Auburn game when I'm trying to compare A&M to Oklahoma because that's really in my
Yeah,
mind the
fair enough.
comparison that's there. I mean, it felt like A&M was far superior of the team in that matchup and just how much more they dominated Auburn versus Oklahoma, who probably should have lost that game, arguably. I'll go A&M, but I do think Oklahoma again, like they have a very much an A-level side that is a real problem for everyone, and that's the
Yeah.
defense and the pressure they can put on teams and the way they can manufacture kind of
But I'd
chaos.
also say they have like an A-level guy, John Mateer at quarterback, and the storyline for me with Oklahoma, and we're gonna find out a little bit more against Texas. Like the offensive line seems to be holding up, and again, it's tricky to have the conversation because I don't think John Mateer is going to be healthy for that Texas game. But Dill, here's the conversation: like Oklahoma's only 3.5-point dogs, neutral site without John Mateer playing. That tells you how good this Oklahoma team is. Hell, Dill, I think I'm picking Oklahoma to win that football game because I look at it and say it's not only the John Mateer show. That's the frustrating part about how people talk about Oklahoma is, oh, John Mateer is not playing. Oklahoma don't stand a chance. they could trot me out there at quarterback. They'd have a chance to beat Texas still because that Oklahoma defense is that good. Indiana at 7.
No,
All right, let's
Bama's
talk.
coming on because Bama is a
Yeah,
team that the way they play offense
yeah,
and I think about like teams that are starting to be like what their coach wants them to look like.
yep,
Alabama's starting to look like the team Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb want to be in terms like
yeah,
that offensive line is coming alive. They're playing
yes,
well. I thought they really dominated up front against Georgia and Vandy, frankly. And then Jam Miller played well. If they can get that run game going
yeah.
behind what's clearly arguably the best passing attack in college football or right up there with anyone,
That's the
they're going to be
thing
a real problem on
is
offense.
if you can, and we said this last week, and I'll say it again: if you make it easy for Ty, or if you keep it clean for Ty Simpson. And that means, hey, give him a run game to lean on and keep him clean in the pocket. Ty Simpson is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he's got the playmakers to really fill it up on the offense side of the football. The sticking point for me, and I think a lot of Alabama fans that I've talked to agree with this, is what's the difference between a team like Texas A&M and a team like Oklahoma? Like they got difference makers on the defensive line, of which we're still waiting to see if Alabama's at that level. They got some names that you like, James Smith or Tim Keenan, Yanza Pierce played some LT Overton. They got some guys you like. I'm not sure if it's at that level that a team like
Well, in your
Oklahoma.
eyeballs telling you they're not taking games over the way they should be on defense. Like
Agreed.
their defensive line doesn't impact the games the way that some of these other top schools
Yeah.
do, like in Oklahoma or A&M.
Texas Tech, are you buying them as a top 10 team in the country?
Top 10, yeah. I don't think you can really deny that anymore. And a lot of that, frankly, has more to do with like would I be comfortable arguing for Georgia? No, I don't think that. I don't know. What do you love about Georgia right now? That's probably the one big
Yeah.
question mark. It's
Besides
like I
Kirby
know it's
Smart. I
super
love Kirby Smart. I
yeah, and
trust
I know
Kirby
like
Smart.
their winning pedigree, but on that team, it's like
Yeah.
defensive line, doesn't excite me that much.
It,
The offense is good, but it's not like it doesn't feel like Alabama's where there's a switch they can get to that it's just like, okay, how do
agreed.
we exactly stop this? So I just don't know what to really love about this Georgia team.
It's so it's so crazy because for a decade, what separated Alabama and Georgia? It's just the difference makers they had in the front seven, right? That's why they maintained the dominance they maintained in the SEC. To me, that's what's holding both of these football teams back in 2025 is I don't see the top 10 NFL draft picks that we're used to seeing along these two defensive fronts. I'm seeing it for Texas A&M. I'm seeing a little bit more for Oklahoma. And that's why you see these two teams ranked a little bit higher. And that's why, Dill, I probably agree with putting these two teams higher. LSU at 11. What are we doing with LSU?
It's tough because the defense is awesome. Like I really love this
Yeah.
defense, and and they'll just hold me in this like purgatory because I'll always think like, well, their offense should be okay. They should be able to find their footing because there's just purely enough talent in the offensive line. I don't think I have any more hope that it's going to be a good unit. It kind of is what it is, and they're going to have to try to figure out some way to work around it. They don't run the ball. They can't pass protect anymore like they were able to last year. They're just going to have to find some way to manufacture some stuff. But I feel like there's enough good players on that team, especially in the wideout room,
That's
who
what
are
you
good
would
with the
think.
ball in their hands and can make
Yeah.
some plays that they can get something going. But it's not happening. So I don't know. I'd probably have Tennessee and Missouri over them right now. Missouri will get
Missouri. Yeah.
Tennessee. I think Tennessee's really good. I think that Mississippi State game's a little misleading. I thought I thought Tennessee, I should say, dominated that game a little bit more than the score indicated.
Sure.
They're dropping some balls and not making maybe the plays you need to make
Can
to be
I
a consistent
can I
winner.
cut you off before we get too far away from LSU? You're skipping over me. Here's the thing with LSU is that there are we're Michigan fans, right? Michigan struggled on offense last year, and there was no fix, right? There's you looked on paper and say this offense ain't getting better as the season goes on. If you're an LSU fan, I think it's fair to hold out hope because you've seen Garrett Nussmeier play at a high level. You know what Barian Brown is, and you know what Nick Anderson is, and you know they have the pieces to I don't know if the right word is cobble together. They have the pieces to produce
Do
an
something.
offense
Have a pulse,
that
and
can
they're not
score
showing.
points. Yeah, that can have a pulse is probably the best way to put it. And Dill, if this LSU team gets a pulse on offense, they're back in that playoff conversation, at least the way I look at things.
Especially because they take the ball away. And again, you can be a really
Yeah,
good defense, but if you can't turn it over and your offense is bad, that's a problem. They take the ball away and give their offense good shots.
they just
I don't
don't
know. I don't know
capitalize.
what to make of this offense. I can't
So
figure out.
this was a long way of winded saying if LSU can figure something out coming out of the bye week, and like if Garrett Nussmeier gets quote unquote healthy, although I don't think that's really what's limiting this offense, but if they can figure out something on offense coming out of the bye week, I could be talked back into believing in LSU, but right now it's hard to believe in them. Can we get to Missouri? 14? Are we serious?
Crime.
Here's the thing that we've been
Coach
saying all year.
Drinkwitz is right. If that logo said someone else, maybe like Alabama or Georgia, they'd be probably around 6 or 7.
And Dill, the crazy part is if you're a college football, even if you're an Alabama fan, Georgia fan, if you follow this sport, you wouldn't push back on that. Missouri looks to be a better team than a lot of these teams ranked ahead of them. They got a quarterback how many quarterbacks are playing better than Bo Perbula? Like the answer is not many. They got a running back that's running the rock better than anybody in the conference. They have an offensive line that you trust. And Dill, here's the thing. It's not only that they're a complete team because the defense is damn good too. They have those difference makers. They might have a higher NFL draft pick on their defensive front than both Alabama and Georgia. Like Damon Wilson, one of the best pass rushers in this conference. They're so complete. They have high-end difference makers. They've looked the part too. Like that's the thing is like just watch them play. They've looked the part as well. Why are they sitting at 14? It's an absolute crime.
No, I don't understand it.
All
I
right.
think Coach Drink is right. It is ridiculous.
All right. Michigan at 15. What's your take? About
Probably,
fair. What team?
probably a little high if we're being honest.
Okay, then what team are you banging the
much.
table for? Like that's kind of where I'm at. It's like Michigan at 15 maybe feels high, but then look at the rest of these
I
teams.
don't love these teams. I mean, Notre Dame to me is coming on in a way. Like
Yes, agreed.
that offense is like awesome. It's quite a bit better than Michigan's. I think Michigan's probably a better defensive team right now. I look at
Yeah, but that's not close. Michigan's way better on defense than Notre Dame.
Yeah, so Michigan's a better defensive team, but I think Notre Dame's. If I'm a Notre Dame fan, I could certainly argue against Michigan being like, well, we played multiple top 5 teams and just lost by a point. Like that's what happened essentially. So
Agreed.
Notre Dame to me, the way they're playing on offense,
Yeah.
I probably have more confidence in them than Michigan because Michigan's still going through that like really frustrating like quarter and a half where they don't have a drive. They go 3-and-out like for a quarter and a half of straight drives. And that's you just can't have that and win big games. So Michigan, until they kind of show me that
Yep.
they're not going to
Can
do
I
that.
say something about Michigan, though, that's going to surprise a lot of people and maybe justify this rank? And you probably know what I'm going to say. They're averaging 7 yards per play. They're the top 10 in the country. Like, and I get that your pushback's going to be, well, that has to reflect in scoring. Well, they are top 35 in scoring offense as well.
Yeah,
That's
but there's a
including
little
road.
bit of a vibe test where it's like again, I don't know. You score what did they score 10 points against Wisconsin and a half. That's like
Yep.
not a very good defense. And it really comes down to like they don't their
Hey,
pass
Texas
catchers not
A&M only
really
scored 7. Only scored 7 in the first half against Mississippi State.
yeah, well they end
Start
up with
floating it.
31.
Yeah, well,
Michigan got
Michigan.
24. You can definitely quibble, but I've seen enough drives or moments in
I agree.
Michigan football where
I agree.
they just can't move it because their
Yep.
pass catchers are dropping balls.
Yep.
They're making key mistakes on the offensive
Yep.
line. Until they clean some of that stuff up, I'm not gonna like pound the table for them to be ranked really, really high.
Yeah, but I just don't see a team that I'm ready to pound the
That
table
is true.
for.
I'm kind of looking like these teams all stink. I don't even know who the good teams are in college
Can
football.
we just fast forward to the Florida State conversation real quick? Top 25 team in the country. Should they be higher?
Not rankings wise or resume wise, I don't think. I mean,
Okay.
maybe you could
Well,
argue it,
they
but
do ever win against the 8th best team in the country.
I know, but they've got their loss. So maybe
But they're
you probably could make a good argument. You're
I think
probably
so.
right.
And it's also just use your eyeball. You know what I mean? Like they went on the road, and I'm not saying Virginia didn't deserve to win because Florida State did get outplayed in some areas. They go on the road, shoot themselves in the foot repeatedly for the first quarter and a half of that game, turn it up, but it's a little too late. Kind of we're just playing from behind. Against Miami, Dill, I will say this about Florida State. I was pleasantly surprised with what I saw from the front seven, like stopping the run, which was a huge concern that I had. Miami's just a really good team. And Florida State fought back, which I think is important to note, by the way. Like, I don't know. Florida State last year would have quit. They probably would have lost 40-3 last year. And so I think Florida State's a little bit better than the 25th team in the country. I'd probably have Vanderbilt a little bit higher too, because I still think that's a very, very good team. Any teams that are not in the top 25 that you think could make an appearance relatively soon coming up?
Probably,
Here's the
probably Florida, honestly, because that's probably a top 5-ish roster, honestly. Like
wow.
their best football is
Yeah.
a top 5 team. Because
Yeah,
frankly, you
I
look
agree.
the losses they've had were very much aside from Miami. Miami kind of beat them up a little bit. Their
Yep.
other losses, if DJ Lagway plays like just mediocre, like they
Yeah.
win those games easily. And he played well against Texas, and they kind of thumped Texas a little bit. So Florida, to me, yeah, they're probably going
You
to
just
find
watch out for them, right? You can't. We cannot in good
and they're
faith.
not out of this thing, frankly. Like they go run the table with their schedule, they're right back in the college football playoff. And if they're in it, they're
Yes.
really, really dangerous.
Now the question is, do we trust Billy Napier to have this team playing their best football? And here's the thing: Billy Napier coaching for his job. That's a different kind of Florida team, man.
I saw that
I
tweet.
can't wait for Florida going on the road to Texas A&M this weekend. Like fire me up for that game because I love Texas A&M, but I'm making no mistake about it. Florida's got a chance to win that football game. Ain't no question about it. It kind of a funky top 25 because there are a lot of teams that we expected to be in these rankings that aren't. Florida, you don't have Clemson, you don't have Penn State, you don't have Texas.
Honestly, Nebraska is going to claw their way back into this thing pretty soon, too, I think. No, the difference is they have guys like they have playmakers who like it just takes one touch and they make things happen. I think that's a big difference than what we've seen in
I would
Nebraska.
take USC over Nebraska. They're built the same, right?
Yeah,
They
probably
question
both bad
question
on the line
marks.
of scrimmage, good quarterbacks, maybe some good weapons. USC, you're right, just better,
Just
by the
better,
way.
just better. Hey, that USC Michigan game. You talk about another sneaky game where you could see some movement there. All right, we'll close it out. There's going to be a movement, man. And here's the thing, and I know this is a talking piece that a lot of people use, but I think it's really true. There's a lot of parity. There's a lot of teams that have chances to win football games every single Saturday. We going to see a lot of shakeup and Dill. That's why I get up here and argue for the teams that are complete. for the teams that aren't one-dimensional, because there are a lot of teams that just feel one-dimensional in this year. Like the teams like Missouri, the teams like Texas A&M that feel like they have so many good aspects about them, have so many different ways they can win. That's why I'm favoring those teams. All right, we'll close it out. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Please let it fly in the comment section. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.